I don't care what Legrand and Dr. Gebhardt say. The blood spot looks strange, and I'd like to take a sample. I always wanted to do that. That should be enough. Wasn't there something about blood samples? Fingerprints, gunshot residue, blood. Well, it explains how to confirm that something is blood. That's a start. You have to mix luminol and a hydrogen peroxide solution and then drip or spray the mixture on the blood. The solution turns blue and glows even if there's just a very small amount of blood. Okay then, luminol and hydrogen peroxide. Aha, hydrogen peroxide solution. Aha, luminol. I think it's better to drip the solution on the swab instead of dipping the swab into the solution. Maybe oxygen is an issue, or it doesn't work if you use too much of the solution. Okay, I'm filling the pipette and putting it down very carefully. So, let's see what we have here. No blood. Not the slightest reaction. If I didn't make a mistake, and it wasn't that difficult, then the spot on the Baroness's bed isn't really blood. But if it isn't blood, what is it? And more importantly, why didn't Dr. Gebhardt notice anything? He was supposed to have examined everything. I'd say it's time to visit the medical center. It seems impossible that Dr. Gebhardt could have shot the Baroness. He was with me when the gunshot ran out, but he must have noticed that the Baroness was lying in a pool of fake blood. Maybe he's covering for someone. Let's find out. It's probably for emergencies, in case a passenger falls down and can't walk anymore. Possibly due to rough seas, or maybe the captain's well-stocked bar. The sink looks like it's been cleaned recently. I can't say whether it was cleaned to comply with the hygiene regulations, or whether there was another reason. A tape recorder from Sibling. Interesting. The reel in the Baroness's cabin is from the same company. A microphone was plugged into the tape recorder. Maybe Dr. Gebhardt records the results of his examinations and writes them down later. The player is rather basic. Simple, sturdy, practical. The player is rather basic. Interesting. A tape on a reel. The reel belongs to a much better player, like the one from the Baroness's cabin. I can't be certain that this is the reel that was missing from the Baroness's cabin, but it seems quite likely. Okay. Nothing. Strange. There. Very interesting. A shot is audible on the tape, and the reel comes from the Baroness's cabin. It's all coming into focus. I guess the trash bin is in here. Right. Paper towels, plastic packaging, cartons, and... Hold on. What's this? A burst rubber glove. It's knotted, and there's a red liquid all over the inside that looks like blood. I bet good money that it's the same fake blood I found in the Baroness's cabin. Dr. Gebhardt will have trouble explaining how rubber gloves full of fake blood got into his trash bin. First, the fake blood he missed in the Baroness's cabin, and now this. It doesn't look good for you, Doctor. That's proof enough for me that the doctor is involved in this. I should report to Legrand. Time to pay Legrand a visit. No. No, don't.
I am sorry you have to see all this. I should have used more chloroform. just in case. You were supposed to be asleep. I am not a monster, you know? I have nothing against you. Nothing at all. But what can I do? You forced my hand. It's your fault. Yours alone. Why? Why did the Baroness have to snoop around? Why did you have to snoop around? And that glove there. You want to plant evidence on me, yeah? I left no evidence. There is no trail. And yet you can't just leave me in peace, can you? And what next? Heart failure happens a lot at your age, especially given your background. I am still considering whether I should throw you overboard. Don't leave evidence. No evidence. But what if I'm seen? My plan was perfect. And then you ruined everything! Hell. On and on. On and on. Take it easy, Mr. Zellner. You will only hurt yourself. Shall we begin? It's almost over. I will.
Are you okay?
Thanks.
A wet towel works miracles. I told you so.
Out with it then. What were you doing down there?
Inspector, at least let the constable recover his breath.
He almost killed himself.
Me? No. Dr. Gebhardt would have taken care of that for me. Where is he?
Gebhardt is vanished without a trace. We're searching the ship from top to bottom.
One at a time. Tell me, Zellner, what did you find out?
Dr. Gebhardt killed Baroness von Trebitz.
Impossible.
Do you have proof?
Besides the fact that he wanted to kill me?
But wasn't the doctor with you when the shot was fired?
The shot that we heard was a recording. The Baroness had a tape recorder and good speakers in her cabin. Good enough to make the noise audible on the upper deck.
Is that just your suspicion, or do you have proof?
There's an audio tape in the medical center. The reel belongs to the tape player in the Baroness's cabin. And there's a sibling reel in her cabin that belongs to the recorder in the medical center. He recorded it in the cargo hold. His tape recorder has a microphone, and I removed a bullet from one of the boxes down there.
And it came from the murder weapon?
All right.
Inspector Legrand.
Let's pretend you're onto something. The shot we heard was just a recording. What happened next?
We all ran to the Baroness's cabin. She lay comatose in a pool of blood. Dr. Gebhardt pushed past you so that you couldn't get too close to the Baroness. He examined her and pronounced her dead. There was no reason for us to doubt him. The shot, the blood, the Baroness lying there lifelessly. But she was only unconscious, knocked out by the chloral hydrate that the doctor had poured into her glass shortly before.
The doctor had a glass in his hand when you came in.
He wanted to remove the evidence, but you gave me the glass instead, Captain DeConti, and unintentionally knocked me out as well.
Nonsense. There was blood everywhere. And the Baroness is certainly dead enough, isn't she?
Then who did shoot her? And when?
She wasn't shot. She was poisoned.
And yet I saw the hole in her chest with my own eyes.
Aha!
She must have been shot.
Well, ingenious. Where was she shot?
As I already said, it was Dr. Gebhardt. He had the sleeping Baroness brought to the medical center, where he had all the time in the world to shoot her.
A fine theory, but unfortunately incorrect. I examined the Baroness before she was taken away. She had a bullet wound in her chest.
Besides which, she was already cold when we brought her to the medical center.
All the same, it's worth considering the possibility. The doctor was alone in the cabin for a while. When the alarm went off, it was deafening. I couldn't even hear myself.
And I found a pillow with burn marks. Could have been used to muffle a gunshot.
And the blood?
The blood wasn't real. Dr. Gebhardt mixed up a liquid that looked like fresh blood to the casual observer, but the liquid remained red instead of becoming darker and browner from exposure to the air. That meant he had to clean the body and get rid of the bedding.
But the blood was already there when we first entered the cabin.
Dr. Gebhardt was in the Baroness's cabin before the murder. He hid a surgical glove full of the red liquid under her sheet. The Baroness, dead tired, fell onto her bed. The glove burst and the blood spread across the bed. I found the burst glove in the medical center.
But why did he do it? What was his motive?
Inspector?
I can only speculate. The Baroness spent the day rummaging through her old family photos.
No.
Do you have anything to contribute, Constable?
Confession, sir. Dr. Gebhardt was the Raven. It's all here. He admits to everything.
What does it say?
It says, "Do you still remember, my dear Nico? The streets were wet with rain and the scent of roasted barley and fermenting yeast wafted over to us from the brewery. The dog barked until your shot struck down the innocent one. After that silence, not a single sound except for my soft steps fading on the wet cobblestone street. They made a hero of you, and I, at last, found peace. At least until the urge returned. Some of us are not made for retirement, my friend. I thought they would assign this case to you, and that thought pleased me. We'd finally find out who was truly the better man. And it pains me now to have to admit that you and your little gumshoe got the better of me. You drove me into a corner, forced me to make mistakes. I congratulate you on your triumph, but no one will confine the Raven to a cage. There is but one way out, and that is by my own hand. Farewell, Raven Hunter R.
Inspector Legrand!
Inspector?
I was right. I told them all, over and over again. But no one would listen.
You think that Dr. Gebhardt was really the Raven?
The things Gebhardt describes in his letter aren't part of any police report. Only someone who was there would know them.
Couldn't there have been others involved? One of the police, for instance. What if one of them changed sides?
Why is it so hard for you to accept the simple truth? There was never a new Raven. There was only ever the old one. And that was Dr. Gebhardt.
The modus operandi doesn't match. The Raven was not a killer.
Legends are rarely what they seem to be, Constable Zellner.
Then who was the man who was killed back then?
William Jackson, a petty thief, committed some burglaries together with his brother. Talented, but not world-class.
And they thought he was the Raven.
Some people thought it was part of his disguise. If you're a debonair master thief, what better disguise than pretending to be a common crook? From time to time you let them catch you pulling small jobs, and no one ever imagines you're capable of a major heist.
But you didn't believe it.
I had my doubts, but everyone congratulated me and those doubts were pushed aside. It was like being caught in a storm, but eventually the storm passed and my doubts were still there.
But not this time? No doubts telling you that Gebhardt isn't our man?
It must be him.
What about the handwriting, the wording? Does the farewell letter match the Raven's other letters?
Yes, it's his handwriting, his words. I've read all the Raven's letters, all of them, over and over again.
I never thought it was possible. A resurrected Raven.
The Raven was never dead. I shot the wrong man.
But that man had the stolen goods, didn't he? So he must have been in league with the Raven. One could hardly call him innocent. Where do we go from here?
We deliver the eye and then I'll contact Paris. A task force will compare all of Gebhardt's known residences with the Raven's activity.
And if there are any inconsistencies?
You're welcome to keep an eye on the safe if you can't let it go. The ship will remain in Cairo for 1 day. That's all the time you'll have to catch your own Raven. I already have mine.
Ah, you're one of Legrand's men, aren't you?
My name is Anton Jakob Zellner.
You've come just in time. Grace, my dachshund, is missing.
There may be more important matters for me to attend to, Mr.
Director Abbas Mokhtar. And Grace isn't just a common dog. She's a purebred German dachshund, a champion.
So, the exhibition will still open tonight.
But of course, everything has been arranged. The final preparations are almost complete.
But one of the two exhibits won't be there.
A terrible loss, a tragedy. That irreplaceable Egyptian cultural treasure has been stolen for the second time.
The second time?
What? Did you really believe that the Eye of the Sphinx was found lying on the banks of the Thames?
Inspector Legrand, Professor Lucien, and Constable Oliver are overseeing the transportation of the safe. They should be here at any moment. I'll have a look around in the meantime.
Do you think that's necessary? The Raven is dead, after all.
If you mean Dr. Gebhardt, his body was never recovered. Nor the stolen eye of the Sphinx, for that matter.
It does us a great honor that the Inspector is concerned about us. But we have everything under control.
Legrand isn't as concerned as he should be. But I am. Is the museum closed?
Yes. Only carefully selected guests may enter the museum during preparations for the gala. And of course, you're one of them, Mr. Constable.
What can you tell me about the museum's security system?
One of the best on the market. And the second eye will still be exhibited in our special treasure chamber, which is extra secure.
Treasure chamber?
See for yourself, to the right of the entrance. The eye is as safe as the British Crown jewels.
I think I'll have a look around the museum.
Please do. There's a lot to see. And you'll let me know if you see Grace, won't you? I hope we find her before the great inspector arrives. Isn't it fantastic how he solved the murder on the ship?
Legrand?
Of course. It's in all the newspapers. The murder of the wealthy Baroness von Trebitz, and how the great Inspector Legrand identified the murderer in just one day. It's the stuff legends are made of. You should count yourself lucky to have the chance to learn from him.
What exactly do the newspapers say?
Everything. It's fantastic. Someone on board must have informed the press immediately. Of course, it's a great advertising for us. The reporters will queue up tonight.
And it was reported that Legrand found the murderer.
Of course! Who else?
Well, I wasn't exactly uninvolved.
Of course. Legrand surely has assistants, but honor to he who deserves to be honored, right?
Well then.
Be seeing you, Constable. Grace! Here, Gracie. My sweetheart. Where are you?
Oh, Mr. Inch.
Mr. Inch. There you are. I am so sorry. Baroness von Trebitz was a good-hearted woman. She did so much for the museum.
As you say, sir.
And you? Are you leaving so soon?
I'd like to go back to my hotel. These last days have been such a strain.
First, you sneak into the museum without greeting me, and then you want to leave just as quickly?
I didn't want to disturb you, and we'll have time enough tonight.
Yes, you simply must come tonight. I wanted to present Baroness von Trebitz with a medal. Now you'll have to accept it.
Of course, if you insist, sir.
The Baroness paid for all this. Without her, there wouldn't have been an exhibition or a gala.
She was very generous.
Yes, she was.
If you'll excuse me now. Constable Zellner, I want to thank you again for all you've done. You saved me, you could say.
My pleasure. See you tonight. Miss Miller probably entered the museum with Lady Westmacott. The lady must be famous in Egypt as well. Miss Miller, I'm glad to see you here.
Oh, Constable Zellner. I heard what happened to you on board. Awful. Truly awful.
All's well that ends well. You are waiting for Professor Lucien?
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow you'll be sailing down the Nile, if I heard correctly.
That's right. I'm sure it will be an amazing experience.
But you don't seem to be very excited.
Oh, but I am. It's very generous of Lady Westmacott to invite me, and especially Matty. He'll learn a lot.
But?
Well, Professor Lucien offered to join us.
Then Matt will learn even more. And I'm sure it won't be unpleasant for you either.
No, I just don't know how Maddie would react if Edgar came with us.
I understand. I could test the water to see how he'd feel about it.
Would you do that? Oh, thank you, Constable Zellner.
Were you able to find out why Professor Lucien left the forecastle so suddenly last night?
No, not really. We only had a brief conversation. He was still very nervous.
He was like that on the train as well. Seems to be typical of him.
It must be something to do with the burglary at the museum. It really affected him. But he told me not to worry about anything. He said, soon this would all be over.
Really? How did he mean that?
Oh, I didn't ask him, Constable.
Are there other passengers from the ship here?
Oh, yes, we arrived as a group. David Kreutzer, the violinist, was with us. So were Miss Myers and Mr. Inch. He seems to have gotten over the death of the Baroness pretty quickly. He seems positively relaxed.
I've met him. He looks on the bright side of life, so to speak. Where is Mr. Kreutzer?
He's over in the treasure chamber. Maddie is downstairs in the main hall. I'm afraid I'll hear the sound of something priceless shattering any second.
Matt will be careful, Miss Miller. I'll continue my tour of the museum.
Oh, yes, there's so much to see.
Locked. The door is closed if the guard room isn't occupied. That makes sense. Though I would have expected the guard room to be occupied all the time, especially on a day like today. Mr. Kreutzer will provide the background music tonight at the opening. Does he have anything else on his agenda? How are the acoustics, Mr. Kreutzer?
Average. I wouldn't have expected anything else from a big stone cavern.
How does it feel to have been accused of murder and to escape by the skin of your teeth? The whole thing could have had a bad ending for you. You didn't have an alibi. It was your gun.
I must admit that I can imagine better ways to spend my time than being roughed up by Inspector Legrand. Your snooping actually paid off for me this time. Did you ever suspect me?
Of murder? No. I think you're too intelligent to shoot someone with your own gun without arranging an alibi for the time of the crime. It seems like a lot of the passengers from the ship are here this morning.
Nearly all of them. I had a brief conversation with the Baroness's butler. Between you and I, he seems quite happy to be rid of the old battleship.
Mr. Kreutzer.
Young Miss Mayers was here as well. Unfortunately, it seems like she's already disappeared again.
Forget it. She's engaged.
And the old witch with her caretaker and her brat are also here.
What do you have against Lady Westmacott?
The lady is more callous than the Queen of the Night. She chased her own son away. Ice cold. I met him briefly. Flew to America because he couldn't stand her anymore.
Did any of the guests behave suspiciously? Was anyone unusually interested in the treasure chamber or the security system?
I couldn't say. I'm here to check the acoustics and then I'll come back for the gala tonight. I'm not interested in your detective games.
The newspaper this morning is full of reports about the events on board.
I've seen them.
Someone must have informed the press directly from the ship. He probably got a pile of money for the story, don't you think?
And again, they want to ruin my reputation. But no, Constable, it wasn't me. I didn't even consider it. And whoever did it was a bungler.
Why?
The story is in all the papers. You get more money if you sell the dirt to just one paper, as an exclusive.
Who do you think it was?
The young guy? The stowaway?
The captain didn't press charges and let him go this morning. But up until then, he was in the cell the whole time.
Perhaps Miss Mayers. Maybe she wants to become an actress and needs a bit of publicity.
Whoever it was, they wanted to make sure that the story spread, and they weren't after money. So, what were they after? Well, I'm looking forward to the concert.
It will be an unforgettable night.
I can't read what it says, but the cover features a dashing picture of Legrand. It shows an energetic young man photographed from beneath, against the sky. That's the look of a man who can catch a thief and murderer in a single day. I don't believe that Legrand spoke to the press himself. He doesn't seem to like the attention, and he wouldn't falsely take credit for something he hadn't done. Kreutzer would be the perfect thief. He's fit, charming, knows the right people. No wonder he was at the top of Legrand's list. On the other hand, the best thieves are people that no one would ever suspect. The uninteresting, the meek, the ones who are always overlooked. Exclusive and unique. The eyes of the Sphinx, exhibited together for the first time ever. Hopefully the visitors will be satisfied with a single eye. Otherwise, all this effort will be for nothing. Unfortunately, now it's just the eye of the Sphinx. But it's a bit too late to change the banner. Well-trained guards are usually the best security system, although they didn't manage to stop the Raven in London. The gala will be crawling with guards tonight. The local police might also send some reinforcements. That must be the treasure chamber where the Eye of the Sphinx is due to be exhibited. The display case is already prepared.
No, sir.
I'm from the Swiss police. I want to check the security arrangements.
No one may enter the treasure chamber before the delivery has arrived.
Ah, I've heard of this. Desert glass. In the great sand sea of the Libyan desert, there's a region where natural glass is found. Nobody knows how it formed. The valuable material was often used for jewelry in ancient Egypt. Several daggers in a row. Their shapes and patterns look timeless, elegant. Aha! This shows how the ancient Egyptians were able to move the heavy blocks of stone to build their pyramids and temples. They used ropes, wooden sleds, and poles as levers. Lady Westmacott is an expert on Egypt. Many of her novels take place here. Impressive, isn't it? Thousands of years old and still beautiful.
That it is. They dug it out of the sand near Thebes over 50 years ago. I was there.
Really?
I met my husband there. He was an assistant on the dig, and was ordered by the director of the excavation to take care of that writer. I financed many excavations in the following years, here in Egypt and in the Near East. I visited my husband, together with our son. It was the best time of my life. But a museum is no place for nostalgia. What can I do for you?
You've had a long and successful life, Lady Westmacott.
What's that supposed to mean, Mr. Zellner? That I should be ready to leave the stage? Because I'm not.
Oh, I didn't want...
I'm here because life is here, Constable. Or was. I have never lived as much as I have here. No fame, no money can buy that.
I understand.
I'm sorry, Constable Zellner. Such an outburst isn't fitting for a woman of my age. And an English woman at that. Let's talk about something else.
When I was working on the ship, I felt like one of the detectives in your novels.
You were lucky. It was an unusual murder. Most murders happen in the heat of the moment or are committed by idiots. They're uninspired. But Gebhardt thought it through. He could have succeeded.
I don't know. He made too many mistakes.
He couldn't have known that the Baroness, almost unconscious from the drugs, would lock her cabin door.
But that was a risk. The plan was too complicated and sloppily executed.
You certainly are a harsh critic, Mr. Zellner.
He could have shot her on the side deck and thrown the weapon into the sea. With no witnesses, no one would have suspected him.
How boring.
Or if it had to be a complicated plan, then he should have worked more carefully. Should have thought of everything, had a plan B in place.
Maybe he didn't have enough time. He had only a few hours to plan and commit the murder.
Still, he should have covered his tracks more carefully. The audio tape, the bloody glove, none of that should have stayed in the medical center. Do you think that Dr. Gebhardt was the Raven?
Was? Do you think he's dead?
The letter sounded like he committed suicide.
There's your answer. Does that sound like the Raven? Being unmasked? Taking the easy way out?
My sentiments exactly. The Raven wouldn't commit murder, get caught, and then jump into the sea.
You don't want everything to be over, do you?
It's my chance to do something great. It can't be over yet.
At least you solved the murder of the Baroness. You're a hero.
That's not how the newspapers see it. Nor I. Something's missing. I can achieve more.
Careful, Constable. He who flies too close to the sun...
Is that the myth of Icarus?
To be honest, no. The story is Greek, and was only written down 1,000 years later. I was counting on the dramatic effect.
Oh, worked well enough. Will you attend the gala tonight, Lady Westmacott?
But of course. The antiquities, the delightful atmosphere, and who knows, perhaps there will be another spectacular burglary.
And your cruise?
The ship doesn't leave until tomorrow, and believe me, I'd cancel the cruise for this.
Let's assume that the thief is still out there. Who is he?
If all this were a novel, then it would be the one you least expect.
Is that intended to be a confession, Lady Westmacott?
What do we know about the new Raven?
He's a man who would stop at nothing.
Must it be a man? And how do we know that it's just one person? There could be several people collectively pretending to be the Raven.
So, we don't know anything.
That's not completely true. We know that he or she wants the Eye of the Sphinx, and will probably strike here, assuming he or she hasn't already gone.
It may be the end of the story for me, Lady Westmacott. Inspector Legrand will arrive soon and send me to the hotel. I'll return tonight for the gala, hoping all the while that the Raven does dare to attempt a burglary. Tomorrow morning, I'll have to return to Switzerland. What an unsatisfactory ending that would be.
It wouldn't be a triumphant ending, but it could be worse. At least you'd still be alive, Constable.
Your son? You haven't said much about him. Or perhaps you did. just not by name.
You're an attentive listener, Mr. Zellner.
I was wondering why you knew so much about Miss Miller's unhappy marriage.
I stopped paying his bar tabs, stopped paying reporters to hush things up. He got to know her and went with her to America to start a new life. You can change your name easily, but not who you really are. He has my eyes, doesn't he?
The Part 2 novel is for him, isn't it?
If I couldn't provide Matthew with a good father, then at least I can provide him with a good start in life.
As always, it was an entertaining and enlightening chat, Lady Westmacott.
I'm going to miss our little chats, Constable Zellner. Goodbye.
She's reliving her memories. I better not disturb her. This is Akhenaten, the only pharaoh whose portrait I always recognize. He has a very unusual head. Akhenaten was the husband of Nefertiti and the father of Tutankhamen, a famous family. But he went down in history as the pharaoh who wanted to eliminate the old gods and replace them with a single god. The priests took offense, and he died of unknown causes. Ahoy, Matt.
The statue was talking.
The statue was talking?
Yes.
And what did it say?
It said it was...
That's a very bad word.
I know.
And an English one. Don't you think it's odd that an old Egyptian statue speaks English?
Don't you think it's odd that a statue speaks at all?
That would have been my next question. And, is the statue talking to you right now?
Do you think I'm nuts?
No, of course not. I just thought you might have much better ears than me. Ears that can hear statues.
Some cop you are, Mr. Zellner. This is a mystery, and you're just making jokes.
You're right. It's just...
Don't you believe me?
We both agree that a stone statue without a mouth or vocal cords cannot speak, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, that means you heard something else, and we have to find out what or who it was.
Roger.
I'm almost a bit envious of you. Going up the Nile on a ship, it must be great.
Yeah, I guess.
You don't sound so keen.
I think my mom wants the professor to come too.
And you don't? You can't tell me.
What if Mom marries the professor and doesn't work with the lady anymore? We'd have to move to London, and I'd have to go to a new school.
You like your life as it is, and you don't want to change a thing, right? But have you ever thought about whether your mother is happy? The world doesn't revolve around you, you know. If you're unhappy, you have to do something. Sometimes you have to take a chance. And in that case, you need all the help you can get.
Do you mean Mom isn't happy?
I don't know. What do you think?
This will all be over soon. Then I'll finally have time for you.
We wanted to head back to the hotel.
Certainly. And tonight at the gala, I'll show you around the museum, okay? And have you made up your mind about the cruise?
Well, I don't really know.
Oh, come on, Mom. Who could teach us more about Egypt than the professor?
Then it's settled.
I didn't expect you to say that.
Well, Mom, sometimes you have to take a chance.
Well, who wants ice cream?
Me! Actually, Mr. Zellner still owes me some.
A great moment. Professor Lucien, your key, please.
Yes. Well,
Come on, Professor.
but you have to realize that...
Thank you.
Finally! But...
Professor?
I wanted to give you this. Well, after the burglary in London, I thought the Eye might not be safe on its way to Egypt. So I secretly took it when I was supposed to place it in the safe in London.
How dare you?
I felt that I should leave the jewel to someone I trusted completely. Myself.
But the jewel was safe. From London to here, no one had an opportunity to steal it.
I beg your pardon, my dear colleague. But if that were true, I wouldn't have had it.
Congratulations, Professor Lucien. You fooled everyone, it seems. The honor is yours.
Well, that's that. Shall I explain the security system to you, Inspector?
The French ambassador summoned me. I have to get in touch with him. The press is besieging the embassy, and I have to answer their questions.
But you absolutely must come tonight. The opening of the exhibition will be the highlight of the year, and you are my special guest.
I will see what I can do. Zellner, will you have a look at the security precautions? We'll see each other tonight.
Of course, but...
Wait, Inspector. I'll join you.
Well, here we are. The Inspector will answer the reporter's questions for the next few hours. And well...
I won't take up too much of your time. I'll take a look around and then go lie down so that I'm ready for tonight. How is the display case protected?
It's made of bulletproof glass that's several centimeters thick. You'd need heavy machinery to open it. But even The smallest disturbance of the display case will set off the alarm.